goes through that sort of emotional thing where they're talking about being these lost souls and sort of, it actually, I think, was almost a callback in a way to the fact that the African American community in North America as a whole feel like lost souls too, because they're no longer they're no longer connected to Africa. They don't have they can't trace back their roots. Mm-hmm. They don't fully understand where they came from, what tribes they belong to, all of that stuff, because they were so brutalized and so far removed from that and like unmade essentially.
Oh yeah, like I don't disagree with the sentiment of his character.
It's just the portrayal.
I think that portrayal came through though, and I think the intent for Ryan Coogler with that character was to just be the source of that anger. Like this, like he essentially took like. Killmonger's whole drive is essentially an entire nation's worth of people and their anger over what happened to them rooted into one person.
You can still have that as like a 3D character. Magneto.
We were talking about that before, right? Yeah.
See, but like I think, but the thing is, I think with Magneto though, the difference is that Magneto was directly brutalized by the Nazi regime, so his experience is a little different.
Well, like it can be different, but he's
routed, and he's a very hatred-filled character as well.
Yeah, you know that scene that's like, I want to see the real you.
But you also have to look at the different layers of the performance. So if you look at Magneto as like Ian McKellen. That's a very different Magneto than the Michael Fassbender. Michael Fassbender Magneto is a much angrier Magneto.
Yeah, there's like a humanity.
Whereas Ian McKellen's Magneto is a little bit more restrained now with how he portrays himself because he's older. He's older. He has all this experience.
That's right.
So I think if Killmonger were to live, I think he would evolve like that. Yeah. But I think. As a young man, like, he's just he loses his father in a really terrible way, and he's left alone. And then
also Sterling K. Brown, stellar performance. Oh my God. I can't even.
Which one was that?
He's like in
Killmonger's dad.
This is us.
Yeah. He's in like 5 minutes of this movie. Yeah, and making everyone cry.
The first time that I saw it, I was just like, man, they're gonna. This is
us.
It's so good. Yeah, I know.
But like that's why I think I don't like. I'm not like I think. In and of itself, like I think Killmonger, for what the time frame that we had in the movie, I think he was necessary to be like in a sense one-dimensional because he's more of a representation than an actual person that we need to understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I get what you're going at. I feel like they could have had both. You can have both.
I think if you can get both, you're amazing.
I think
it's probably harder.
I think
to
it's
get both.
impossible to get it as nuanced because I think the
impossible.
Like I think so.
It is possible.
It's possible, but it's very like
very
it's
difficult.
Very
it's
hard.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Writing's hard. Yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
especially for comic book movies, it's very difficult because like
and
if
it's
you
only
look,
for 2 hours.
it is, and if you look at like
yeah,
I think a prime example is everybody raves about the Joker in The Dark Knight. If you think about it, that character is one-dimensional. He
has one. Very nuanced one dimension.
He's anarchy. That's all he is. He's just anarchy.
Yeah.
And like that's the point. I think with Killmonger, I think that's what Coogler was trying to get at, which is Killmonger is like the rage of a people. Because not at one point did anyone really be like, is he wrong?
You know what?
But
maybe so maybe in that rage, maybe they could have like killed turned up the badass like Netflix's Punisher, like before he actually had his own series, and he was just angry all the time except for a few scenes. But he was also just like you feel the brutality every time you hit a person. Yeah. It's just like regular action. I'm doing like sword swishing motions with my hands.
But I think at the point of the day, like because people were arguing this on Reddit, is like in a sense Killmonger kind of won because he made T'Challa. Back because T'Challa's whole thing was to keep the status quo, right? Right. I must keep Wakanda the way it is.
We have to be inclusive. We're not going to share, because it's the way, like, for centuries my father has been doing it this way.
He made him think.
And then he
made him think outside the box.
He makes T'Challa think. And he makes T'Challa realize that, holy shit, like, this entire time, we've left everybody else out there to suffer when we could have done something differently. Yeah. And then T'Challa's like, you know what, fuck that. Like, I'm going to do something differently. Sorry, I swore. I don't know if I was
I heard the word bitch earlier, so it's
but what I really appreciate with this as well is it's a Marvel movie that touches up on kids as well. People will kids will see it with their parents will see it with their kids, and we're starting to show a whole new dimension of superheroes than just kick and be comedic about it and have a kind of a lighthearted story that you're going to see, and I like it because it's kind of like these kids are finally getting to see a version of superheroes that are challenged in an emotional and a psychological sense, not just a physical sense anymore.
Definitely, but I think my one hampering is like my fear would be, is Black Panther a one-off when you look at it in the larger scale of the MCU, because they left it kind of on its own. It didn't really tie much to the other films in the way that a lot of the other films tied to it.
It wasn't the others.
It did, but like it wasn't straight like certain things weren't necessarily like, you know, like it wasn't, there weren't so many direct callbacks, if it makes sense. For those
why it was so successful.
Yeah, that's why it was so successful. Yeah. But my fear is
another thing
when
as
these
well.
characters get when these characters get transported back into the rest of it with the rest of the characters, like is T'Challa suddenly going to become over? Is he, you know, like how are we going to see those dynamic, you know what I mean, like how are those like are the people of color going to be regulated back to being just the people of color sidekicks?
Well, no,
you know
I hope to God not. Already, I mean, like just with the way that Nakia and all of them are just in itself just so powerful already. Like I hope not.
But that would be my fear.
Yeah.
Like
the fact that it's already going to be taking place in parts of Wakanda and Infinity War, you're already going to feel like, this reminds me of that amazing film I saw, and these characters and the locations are important. It's not just a pretty scene. There's culture here, and I've seen how good this can be.
I hope so.
And I feel like that's going to.
But my worry with Infinity War especially is because there's like maybe like 30 odd people in this film.
Oh god, I know that's a whole other podcast. To discuss.
Is the weighting of everything? You know what I mean? Because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be, and we were talking about this earlier. It's going to be a fundamentally Iron Man film.
Well, we'll think about
that. That's how I look at it from everything, because Iron Man was the start of everything, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like Tony Stark's going to be a real anchor in this film. Even the trailer spends a lot of time with Tony compared to everyone else. Yeah. So, I'm just worried about how these dynamics play out in the bigger scheme of things, because, like, as much as, like, I loved Black Panther and I thought it was amazing, I'm like, is it enough for something like Disney to learn and not, you know, start evolving into different kinds of storytelling?
And there's a little bit of hope there, though, because they do have material that's been doing multiple character stories for, like, decades. Maybe they might read it.
And not just that, Black Panther was amazing, not just for all the amazing points we just pointed out, but there's the story writing. They broke the molds with Black Panther. If you look at the prior Marvel films, they've followed the same mold. Like, you know, the minions at the end of the film, the one button press and everyone falls, and they have this technique where you have a serious moment and they just undercut it with some humor and a joke. And then if you saw Thor Ragnarok, it's a very sad.
I was gonna
story.
Say like it's
a very sad story. But it's also. There's a lot of humor in there where you don't feel the depth of the
That was actually one of my biggest gripes with Thor Ragnarok, is the fact that, like, the Asgardians lose their home.
Yeah.
Like they become refugees.
But then it's a comedy.
But there's so much humor.
But like, and that's the thing that upsets me, because it is Taika Waititi. I can never say his last name. I'm so sorry. But like, his movies are fantastic. And if there's this really great film called Search for the Wilder People, it's on Netflix. I hope it's still on Netflix. It's one of the films he's an Australian director, or New Zealand director, so it's a New Zealand-based film. And basically the whole movie is a dynamic about this kid who ends up being taken into a foster family, and then he has this adventure in the wilderness with his foster father, and they bond. There's more to the story, but I don't want to spoil it. But it was very funny, but also very emotional. And it was, like, difficult, like, not difficult to watch, but it really resonated with you know, with the parent-child relationship and all of that. So when I saw how he handled Thor Ragnarok, I'm like, wow, this movie's so funny, but I'm like, but there are moments here where it could have been really emotional.
Like, there was a lot more depth into it.
There should have been more depth into it.
Every time.
His three best friends.
Yeah.
Every time something, like, he lost so much in that film.
There's so many things that happened where I'm like, they just undercutted it with humor, and then it's like, you don't feel it anymore.
You don't feel it.
Whereas with Black Panther, I'm like, I actually felt
everything.
They did. Exactly. He didn't shy away from, you know, that those emotional. Even like when
oh my god, did he die? What happened just now?
What part was that?
Like when he fell off the cliff.
Whenever anyone falls off the cliff,
you knew he didn't die, but you felt it because of the fact that they didn't hide the emotions of the other characters. Like,
oh my god, like Angela Bassett, I was like, no, mama, no.
See the pain, right?
But like for me, it was more of the quieter moments, like when, you know, he goes back the second time to visit his dad in the ancestral plane. that to me felt like a really emotional moment because he calls out his father being like, no, this is not my time to die. I have to fix these wrongs that you made.
Yeah.
You know, and it was
about talking to your dead dad that way. Like, I mean, that's the realest.
It was really real. Like, it was meant to be really real. And I'm like, and I'm looking at Thor Ragnarok and I'm like, where is the realness in this film? Because he loses his best friends, he loses his dad, and he loses his home. Like, his people become refugees all in one movie.
The parallel between Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther is so apparent if you think about it. The father's passing away, the home being taken over and destroyed, like the brother, the brother that was actually part of the family but not, and then cast aside and comes back, and it's just they're both handled so differently, and you can tell which way is better.
Right. And okay, so what I wanted to say before as well was that I went into this movie with bare bones. You know, like I didn't read anything beforehand. I only knew Black Panther through like cartoons. I think when Avengers, the one that was on Netflix. You know, that was the only T'Challa I really knew, other than like super old comics that I may have picked up, but. I knew about Wakanda, you know, I knew about the heart-shaped leaf, but that's about it. And I almost think that, like, now Marvel and DC are bringing in B-list superheroes, and I hate calling them that, by the way. But, you know, there's a beauty to it because now you're going into this whole experience with a new set of eyes that doesn't have a 75-year history that was so rich and so
it's not
overdressed.
It's not as mainstream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They had room to experiment, which is the best thing about B to D-list characters.
Yeah, and I mean, in the comics, when I was looking up these things, Sterling K. Brown's character was not a character in the comic books at all.
No, they made him for the film.
Yeah, and it's the same way I feel about, you know, some of the CW stuff where there was no such thing as White Canary. I'm sorry, I just wanted to bring that up because I'm really in love with White Canary.
There was
no.
No, it was only Black Canary, and it was.
You know, I thought I just didn't read enough comics.
No. But yeah, you know, there's just so many things that are gems in the comic book world. And I just want to draw you guys into another recommendation from Comics Inc. Just another way for you to get reiterated with the character, Black Panther. There's an annual that came out just last month, February 21st. It's called Black Panther Annual 2018. It was written by Don McGregor. Also, I kind of feel like I should be saying Don McGregor. Christopher Priest. Reginald Hudlin. I had eye problems today. Sorry, guys. It's in digital right now, and as well, Marvel Unlimited is still having a sale, and it is available there, but also in your local comic book store. Last words from Comics Inc., guys. Black Panther. We don't have a rating system, but we're gonna say we really loved it.
Yeah, between yay or nay, it's hell yay.
It's hell yay.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. We'll see you again in the next podcast, guys. Joey from Comics Inc. signing out.
Leonard.
Yeah, he forgot his name again.
Yeah, I'm signing out too. I'm Leonard. I'm signing out.
This is Canya signing out.
This is your friend Anthony signing out.
Oh, very nice. Good night, guys.